thank you very much for coming to chat to us on behalf of the Durban Chemicals Cluster and the Durban Automotive Cluster. Maybe you just want to start off with a bit of background to yourself.
Yeah. In terms of Ghana, I was approached by Trellidor South Africa. I've been doing business with Trellidor for a number of years, and a number of the opportunities that I had for them was setting up some of their exports. One of the export opportunities was in Ghana itself, and an opportunity arose more recently with a more permanent contractual position with Trellidor. Having gone into Africa previously myself, I've done Kenya, Kenya, Tanzania, Cameroon, and more recently Nigeria. Ghana for me was a natural fix. It's English, stable. It has, for me, a burgeoning economy. So it was a good fix for me to say, yes, let me do this. It was a 2-year contract with Trellidor, and it was to set up Trellidor Ghana Limited, take it away from a local opportunity, a local agency, and set up the business as a South African-owned business.
So were you based there part-time, or were you based there full-time for 2 years, or how
I was based there full-time from April 2012. Prior to that, I had opportunity to go and visit Ghana and do a little bit of business there itself.
Okay.
So I was familiar with the town and territory, if you want to call it.
Okay. So you established Trellidor Ghana, so a subsidiary of Trellidor here.
Correct.
Why did you decide on that business format? Just out of interest.
The agent or the franchisee we had was a former government employee. He was the Deputy Minister of Power and Energy. He had kind of turned away from the business because of his other commitments. So Trellidor itself wasn't getting the exposure that we thought it was getting, purely and simply because our competitors in Ghana itself were seeing significant business opportunity, sales growth. So we decided, let's take it away from the agent, keep him a shareholder, which is what is required by local Ghana law, for us to continue business. So instead of it being what it was previously Intertech Holdings, it then became Trellidor Ghana Limited.
Okay. And in terms of going over to Ghana, were you, we've heard when we had the Nigeria workshop that when you first base yourself in Nigeria, you're supposed to rent a house and you've got to pay upfront for a year's rent upfront. Did you have to do something similar? Was it a lot of business outlay for Trellidor South Africa?
Okay, the decision to go there meant that I had to go and see what I was getting myself in for 2 years, because the position wasn't necessarily just for myself. It was going to be for my wife and my youngest daughter. My youngest daughter has a Down syndrome, so special needs, and she's 15 years of age. Obviously 13 then when we were considering to go across. So it was a case of what was there and what was currently being utilized by the expat that Trellidor had at the time.
Okay.
So I naturally walked into an apartment which was going through its lease tenure period, so it had to be renewed. So to answer your question with regards to that, accommodation is either a year or 2 years paid up front.
Okay.
But you can negotiate. I negotiated I will pay the year, but I'll give quarterly checks based on the currency and the fluctuation rate of exchange.
Okay. So were you based in Accra?
Central Accra, in a suburb called East Legon, which is quite a new suburb where a lot of the expats, be it British, American, Belgian, French, a lot of South Africans have moved in.
Okay. And now if we talk about, we touched on just now the sort of the political landscape.
Yeah.
What is the political landscape? We know we touched on how this is affecting their exchange rates, and now they're working a lot in dollars. And maybe you can give us your background on that.
Previously there was an allowance. If you were known to the government, you could get dispensation with regards to quoting, billing, and doing business in dollars. They refer to that as a dollarized economy. What it was doing, it was game bashing, if you want to call it, the CD.
Yes.
And in line with that, the GRA, Ghana Revenue Authority, along with the in-house political party, the NDC, decided no. Irrespective of who you are, we're going to revert back to a CD-based business. So you will do all business in CD.
Okay.
the result that you asked in terms of the one question, what has happened to it in the past? The effect that the dollarized community had on the economy itself has been such that when I started in Ghana in April, the CD to the dollar was 189. It is now sitting at over 370.
Sure.
In the last month of my trading in Ghana, I imported product from South Africa. 20-foot FCL, it landed. If I billed out on the day that I cleared my cargo for the full month of July, there was a variance of 29%. So naturally my invoicing had to change. I had to have a dollar affecting my CD, but my clients could only see the CD. So I had to run a different software system. So that's what a lot of business are having to do there. Because the dollar has such a huge impact and a negative impact on the CD, especially when you're importing. The other way is beneficial for the exports.
Yeah. I mean, that has a huge impact on doing business from a financial point of view and costings point of view and the viability of...
Well, think of it if you've got a static billing software system. You have to change your billing system every day.
Very difficult. So, and from a sort of a political perspective, I mean, is it a stable political climate? I know earlier you were talking about a change in leadership.
Yeah. With the Ghana firm favourite of John Mills having died in late 2012, the VP, John Mahanama, took over. There was a lot of confidence initially because he was the VP, and there was this understanding at the time that Mahanama would naturally take over the same role as what Mills had. He was very much a people's person. He was guided largely by his political party in the sense of what to do from a business point of view. He wasn't a strategist, he wasn't an economist. He was just a good person who listened and made good decisions at the time, guided by his loyal formers. However, Mahanama decided, because he's a little bit more, we think, educated, he has a little bit more business intellect, decided to gamble. And in line with that, he gambled with a lot of the stable positions, the various portfolios, and in line with that, he replaced them. There, immediately, there was a lack of confidence. You could feel in the market. And
so he replaced ministers, or
he replaced ministers.
Policies, or
there was two policy changes. One was specific to transport, and the other one was specific to imports. And immediately on the imports, it resulted in a 2% levy. A 2% levy on major importers. Now, I do a lot of social work for a lot of the expats. One of them being Gain, now part of Walmart.
Yes.
Now, their imports on a monthly basis, can you imagine 2% on all their containers? If they do 25 containers a month, 2% on that landed cost is phenomenal.
It's huge.
So then this went through to the first elections. Mahanama had a landslide win. However, there was close quarters calls with the opposition party, and the opposition party didn't believe that the voting went according to plan. In line with that, what they did is they pulled the ruling party into court, which resulted in a 5-month lack of confidence in Ghana, and that's when business
a lot of government uncertainty,
yes,
political turmoil.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Was there rioting associated with it, or was it quite peaceful?
No, there was no rioting. And you did ask a question earlier on about what is the culture. The culture is very peaceful. It's very English. They're very laid back and very accommodating people.
Are they hardworking?
Yes and no. It's kind of a difficult question to answer. I ran a factory where I had 16 people in the factory. Now, I didn't see hard work.
Working type of factory.
Yeah, it was refabrication. So if you look at the Trellidor product, we would import the raw material from South Africa. We would refabricate it in our trim shop, that was called, but it was a factory, and for that had to be licensed and accredited. But we'll get onto that with regards to the licensing and the certification later. But the hard workingness of the employees, I didn't think they were a hard-working nation. They would certainly do the work, but then when I criticized the amount of units manufactured in a day in comparison to the amount of units manufactured in a day in South Africa, and this is done by ladies, and I had filmed it and then I gave it on to my staff in Ghana. I said, these ladies are making that amount. You gentlemen are making this amount.
Yes.
Then they started upping their game a bit.
Okay.
But then they have to be incentivized. I think that's inherent throughout Africa. Incentivize, encourage, motivate, do everything you need to do, but they're not going to do it willingly.
Okay. And the skill level? I mean, are they very educated? What are the general skills like?
If you put out an advert looking for somebody, you'll get 120 CVs returned and everyone is an MBA.
Wow.
However,
what does that mean?
Yeah, where do these MBAs come from?
Yeah.
With regards to the local education, it's very much English. They all speak English, so the conversing and communication level is very good.
Okay.
A lot of them get good schooling. A lot of them have had good schooling. It's the tertiary education that you've got to look at, whether it's going to be for university or it's going to be skills-based with regards to your journeyman. That is questionable. They're prepared to do the work, like a mechanic is prepared to fix your car, but that person is not qualified to do that.
Okay. That makes sense. And what about bribery? I mean, while we're on the sort of safety.
Africa is synonymous. No matter where you go, who you deal with, it's money across the table. The only thing in Ghana, it's done blatantly in front of people. They will ask you for the money. You go through a roadblock, a policeman will put his head through the window and he'll ask you for money.
Okay.
If you want to go and get your GIPC, your Ghana Investment Promotion Centre permit to have expats, or you need to increase something, you need more certification, they'll say that is the cost for that, but this is the cost for me.
Yeah. And what if you, I mean, we had some speakers from some African countries who said that you just don't entertain it. But do you, I mean, is it like, if I'm a business here and I'm establishing a business there, do you just cost it as an item in the business? Do you just...
I had this hard-ass attitude. I had this hard-ass attitude when I first arrived. I said, I'm saving costs, there's no way I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I ended up for 7 hours in a holding cell because I wasn't prepared to pay somebody to go out of the way, take my file, put it on top at the immigration department for my work permit. So after that, lesson learned. If there's a fee, negotiate the fee, pay the fee,
Yes.
get it done.
Yeah.
And yes, you do cost it in.
Yeah. And is that cost most associated when you're going through the border, so you're importing a product, or through transport of product? When are you paying these types of bribes?
For what you said with regards to the importation and delivery and transportation of goods into the country.
Yes.
I used to import every 6 weeks, air freight and sea freight. There was never two shipments, albeit they might be exactly the same size and costed out exactly the same in terms of value. There would not be the same billings from the statutory departments in Ghana. So they went for wharfage, for example, if there was a container inspection, if there was a customs stop, if there was a new seal having to be put on a container or taken off a container, the charges varied per shipment.
Sure.
So it was never consistent.
So you just become accustomed to the variation of...
However, if you made a presence and you spoke to people, and then it's all about relationships, you find a person that you can speak to, you can contact, you can communicate with, and you give that person something on the side, that person will ensure that your goods are delivered on time and cheaper than had it gone through the normal circles.
Yeah. Yeah, a number of people have said that you've got to have a presence. That
Yeah.
you can't just... And a lot of people fall into the trap of not being there.
Correct.
And just flying to and fro, and then you...
For business to work in Ghana, if there's an expat moving from here, from South Africa to go into Ghana, they must do everything themselves. They must see, feel, taste, and hear.
Yeah.
You've got to do everything yourself.
Yeah. A lot of our firms have said that though they want to rather distribute, so contact distributors there. Is that a viable strategy?
Distributors there, they would welcome an opportunity from South Africa. Obviously, it obviously come with a cost, but that would need to be managed. The infrastructure from a distributor's point of view in and around Ghana, I'm talking about roads, is an absolute nightmare. So one would have to assess where you're distributing, who you're distributing with, and what lead time you're looking to distribute your products.
Yeah.
The thing in Ghana, if you can improve on lead times and you can improve on-time communication direct with your client,
you'll be preferred.
You'll certainly be a preferred service provider or product supplier, certainly. But you're not going to get that from a Ghanaian.
Yeah.
It'll take an expat to go in and do it. And they call us, because of our white, the old slang was we e-bruni, e-browns.
Okay.
So we e-brunis. But they welcome, they really and truly respect it when you've got out of your office, you've got in your car without a driver, and you've driven to somebody and you've taken the time to sit there because they won't see you on time. Just, it happens in Ghana. If you've got a 10 o'clock appointment, it'll take you 2 hours to travel 7 kilometers. You'll have to get there early and you'll be seen 45 minutes late.
Sure. So you said a number of important things there. So roads.
Okay, infrastructure, roads.
Yeah.
The roads are a nightmare. It's obviously left-hand drive. The road infrastructure cannot take the volume of traffic right now. One of the biggest things on the government's...
Just in, what did you say, Accra? Or?
No, throughout Ghana.
Throughout Ghana.
Okay.
Okay.
Accra and Tema being your worst hit. And then you've got Kumasi. Kumasi is about 4.5, 5 hours inland.
Okay.
If you'd want, Kumasi would be Johannesburg in South Africa.
Okay, so it's central.
Tema would be Durban.
Okay.
And, Tema would be Durban, and Accra would be Pietermaritzburg.
Okay.
That's the distances, and that's what they are in terms of their size, the economy, and probably their urban representation. Kumasi certainly is more central for your mines. Tema is your port and shipping and industry, and Accra your commerce.
Okay, so it is quite spread around in terms of commerce.
It is,
yeah.
But then to get to those places, yes, you can fly from Accra to Kumasi. It's a 45-minute flight. On a good day, if you're going to drive there, it'll take you probably just less than 5 hours. And it could take you 2 days.
That's awful. And in terms of, trucks and that having to transport things, there's just lots of delays and it's poor road infrastructure.
That goes back to your distributorship. You've got to look at how you're going to get goods.
Yes.
If you're reliant on road transport, you're on a hiding to nothing. Unless, of course, you're going to go and do it yourself.
Yes.
Or alternatively, you cost in air freight in and around Ghana.
Okay. And in terms of the ports?
The ports, you've got 2 major ports. You've got Tema, which is your deep sea port, and then you've got Takoradi, which is your on-carriage or your feeder port, but it feeds primarily the mining and the oil and gas industry. And that is West Coast. That is on the border of Côte d'Ivoire.
Okay.
Right now there's a big arm wrestle between Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire, Abidjan and Takoradi as to ownership of 11 new gold fields. Gold fields just recently discovered about 30 k's offshore. And they're trying to determine where the dividing line is. So that's going to be a bit of a fun fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of other infrastructure such as electricity, water?
All right, your essential services, electricity. In the last 2 years, electricity went up 245%, if I remember correctly.
Sure.
Electricity is supplied by Ghana, for Ghana, by 2 huge hydroelectric projects, which they've got in the Volta. 2 dam walls, 2 big hydroelectric schemes there. However, 70% of the power supplied by Ghana is exported to neighboring states, which then results in lack of electricity for Ghanaians itself. So power surges, power outages, load shedding, something you live with, but you live with generators. So for the average person, power is extremely expensive and very, very irregular. Water's gone up, if memory serves me correctly, about 175%. And again, because of the Volta project, this is a huge man-made lake, huge water source. Volta, the Volta Revenue Authority, which owns Baltic Water, is a huge exporter. About 50% of the water supplied for Ghanaians is exported.
Yeah, doesn't make sense at all.
They have these resources, but they export it. And the result of that export, the monies that are supposed to be accrued from those exports for those commodities. Ghana doesn't see.
Yeah. Goes into private coffers, I'm sure.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. If we talk about what are the main industries in Ghana, so you touched on mining earlier.
What a lot of people don't realize is the first mineral industry was diamonds, and it's a close-kept secret. Although people are aware of diamonds, and they all talk about the blood diamond corridor that comes from Sierra Leone further west, right the way through Nigeria down to Cameroon, and then also down into the DRC. Ghana was very much part of that. They supported that. They had their own, but they're a little bit more upfront and a little bit more sort of, let's call it more gentlemanly with regards to the extraction and the sales of their diamonds. Next, obviously, gold is now manganese and tin, and now oil and gas. Those are your minerals. Then obviously agriculture. Agriculture is huge. Cocoa and palm nut. Palm nut oil is very, very big in cocoa. I would say between those two products, they are on a par with other West African countries with regard to those particular products and export.
Okay.
And then local content, local industry, fish. Very much fish. Tilapia is very, very big there. It's a staple diet for which they support basically the Ghanaian economy, and they also export.
Okay. And in terms of manufacturing?
Manufacturing, textiles. Textiles is quite big. There's a lot of chemical companies there as well. The textiles and chemicals you get are a cross between Chinese and I would say Eastern European. So if you want to call Lebanon, the Lebanese, Eastern European, and also Turkish. There's a lot of Turkish influence there as well. And to support that is their apparel, their clothing, their materials, and also their chemicals.
And the chemical products, what sort of sectors are they feeding? Is it a broad array?
It's very much broad-based.
Yeah.
Paint is very big. They have their own paints. And the chemicals into the plastic industry. There's a lot of big plastic companies there which obviously have a supporting infrastructure of service providers and also product suppliers from the chemical-based point of view.
Okay. And in terms of the government's policies, in terms of what they want to support going forward?
The government are available to hear you. I'm not too sure what their mandate is with regards to those industries.
Okay.
I had to cross swords with them a number of times because of the products that I would import from South Africa to finish my product as a fitted unit for Ghana business. I had to have powder coated, I had to have aerosol spray cans, and I also had to have lubrication. I had to go through GIPC certification for each one of those three products to be imported in my container.
That must have been quite an lengthy process.
It is, but it also gives you a good feel as to what you're dealing with, who you're dealing with, but it also gives you a sense of achievement. You know, you've gone through a whole number of hurdles, but you've overcome it.
Yeah.
It's cost you a little bit, but you now have a GIPC certificate. For anybody doing business...
So who's the GIPC? They are the?
Ghana Investment Promotion Centre.
Okay.
It sounds glamorous, but it's just one way of securing a levy from a business.
Okay. Are they easy to deal with?
They're approachable, not easy.
Okay. So if you're a South African business and I presume you have to register with the GIPC?
If you're a South African company wanting to
export,
or wanting to import into Ghana and then do business with Ghana and neighbouring ECOWAS countries, which is Côte d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, Togo, Benin, Nigeria. You would have to go through GIPC registration certification. That'll give you your business license.
Okay.
That'll then also, the question that asks you, how many expats are you going to bring in?
What if your answer is zero?
If you're bringing in nothing, then obviously use your local partner.
Okay.
They normally would have a GIPC certificate and accreditation.
Okay.
If you're going to bring in any South African expertise,
yes,
then you'd have to have a separate GIPC certification and accreditation for that. And that can be as much as 200,000 CDs, depending on your investment. So if you're investing in product and expertise in terms of your expat presence, what would you cost them in? So you would annualize what their salary was cost the company, and also what they're going to bring in from a product-based point of view.
okay,
And then to support that would be your GRA, your Ghana Revenue Authority. That's your VAT, that's your SNIT, that's your business licenses. So, and your insurance, sorry, your business insurance.
So how do you deal with them? I mean, do you deal with them on the internet, or do you have to go to Ghana and have a meeting with them to try and...
You've got to see them face to face, so they've got to see who they're dealing with.
Okay.
So if for example, I'm going to do something for Trellidor, and I have a GRA or a GRPC application, Ghana Revenue Authority,
oh yes,
I would have to have myself sitting in front of that person, passport.
okay.
Take a copy of passport with, so they don't take the passport to the back area and do something with it. So you have your passport, you want a copy, there's a copy. You give them a copy.
Yeah.
But before you do any of that, if you're going to do business in Ghana, you would go and get yourself registered as a non-citizen, and that will cost you $135. You get given a little card with your photograph and a magnetic tape on the back.
Wow.
That then puts you in the GRA and GRPC system, so they'll see you've now got intent to do business here in Ghana.
Okay, so that's the first.
That's the very first step. You go and you do that, $125, $135, $145, whatever it is now. And that's renewable on an annualized basis.
So you do that there?
You do that there.
Okay.
It takes 40 minutes to do.
Okay, that's quick.
And then you have that. And then with these people, the GRPC and GRA, if you're making an application for any form of certification or registration, they will go into the system. If the system's alive and well, and you've got internet and you've got connectivity, they will go in the system, they'll look at your non-citizen ID card, they'll check the number, refer it on the system, and they'll say, fine, you've done that, we can now talk.
Yes. Okay. You touched on the internet there. Is there internet? Is there...
There is internet.
Is it stable?
No, it's not stable.
Okay.
Wind, rain, big aircraft coming across. Just for some reason, kick it out. But your worst time is October through to February, when they have something called the Hamatan.
What's that?
Hamatan is a season of the sand wind, which comes down from the Sahara, comes down through Mali, Burkina Faso, and deposits all the sand on Ghana. You'll have visibility 100 meters, and basically everywhere you go, if they're big circles or they're interchanges or traffic lights, which don't work, you'll be given these yashmaks, and that's what you've got to wear.
That's fascinating.
It is.
Yeah, it's like the windows closed, and it's just...
But even if the windows are closed, it's very, very fine dust. Obviously, the Sahara sand, very, very fine. So the whole of that Gulf of Guinea, that coastline, just gets inundated with this very brown cloud.
Okay, so that's October to February?
To about February, yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned just now about the ECOWAS region, and there were a number of questions from our members about, are there any benefits to ECOWAS, and how is it dealing with, if you go into Ghana, dealing with the associated countries and that?
All right. I'll give you my experience from dealing with Togo and Nigeria through Ghana. We had an operation in Lagos, and Lagos were importing direct from South Africa. Their landed costs would rate out about 25%. I'd done the exercise by going through to GAPOA, Ghana Harbour Ports Authority, and changing the identity of my imported product from an FAU, a fully assembled unit, to CKD, completely knockdown units, which worked from 25% down to 5%. Sure. That's 20% bottom line, straight. I tried to do the same exercise in Lagos, and I was told, no. That's how it was coming in. How can you change it? But I said, I'm changing the product.
Yeah.
I'm not putting as much in it.
Yeah,
so it needs,
we're going to do more value adding.
It needs more working here, and we've got a little trim shop in Lagos itself. I can't do it. So I said, fine.
Add more value in Nigeria and actually employ people.
But they didn't understand and accept that. They said, no, it's all 25%. So I said, fine. Lagos no longer will import directly. We'll import into Ghana. We'll handle their orders, and I'll ship it across by road.
Okay.
Okay, if you look at Ghana through to Lagos, 3 border posts. Togo, Benin, Nigeria.
Okay.
Because you're going east. Togo and Benin will take you probably 3 hours to get across. Benin being your narrowest, so shortest. And you don't really have problems going across the borders. It's only leaving Ghana and entering Nigeria. So what we would do is we would send product, Ghana, Togo, Benin, get to Benin, get the Nigerian Lagos people to come across to the border, collect it and go there. It used to cost me 3%.
Sure, so that's a cumulative 8%,
8%.
as opposed to a 25%.
And that was basically the road levy. And I would use recognised transporters in Ghana that had an agency or distributorship or an office in each one of those little countries going through Togo, Benin, and also into Nigeria. So there was commonality and synergy between Ghana right the way through to Nigeria.
Yeah. Are a lot of people doing that? I mean, are the expats doing that in Ghana?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't work the other way. Now, people staying in Nigeria aren't doing that to go to Ghana?
No.
No.
Now, in terms of the other question...
Nigeria is stricter on the duties.
Correct.
Okay.
In terms of the other question you asked, what is the benefit from ECOWAS? The benefit there is if you register as a free zone company. Now, if you register in Ghana as a free zone company, means you're importing product and you're exporting product. They're calling for 70% export, being your predominant market, but they're negotiable around it. My market, export, was 25%, and they entertained our application.
Sure. Okay.
So then, if you're importing, all your VAT, all your duties on your imported product for ECOWAS distribution and export is free. So there, significant benefit. And if you recognize as a free zone trader, free zone company, and you're supplying ECOWAS, it stands you in good stead. You're then seen as a very prominent company within the Ghana circles.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And to support that would be the Ghana South Africa Business Council, or I think it's a council, yeah. Ghana GSADC, Ghana South Africa Business Council, and the guy that heads it up there is the GM for Avis, Hilda Toy. He has all the brief on it. He has all the brief with regards to the application processes that support ECOWAS and Free Zone as well.
Okay. Is the council quite active?
Very, very active.
So do they assist businesses?
Yeah, meetings, big formal meetings every month, and informal meetings probably every week.
Sure. And are they based in Joburg or are they based here?
No, they're based Pretoria and obviously Central Accra.
Okay. Anything else about ECOWAS that you'd like to mention?
No, that kind of covers ECOWAS, just the benefits, and it's actually nice dealing with neighbouring states. Obviously the benefit to the company is the opportunity that you get to deal more with more international countries.
Yeah.
And the cultures. You know, Togo and Benin, very French. Côte d'Ivoire, very French. Burkina Faso, very French. Nigeria, very French. Ghana, English.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And culturally, are they very different? Or, I mean, I know there's the language difference, but...
Nigeria's, your culture is very much more demanding. It's very much more in your face. It's very quick. It's like going from the south coast of KZN to Johannesburg. That's the difference in the pace. That's a difference in the market trend. Togo and Benin, not so much, very laid back.
Okay.
They would sit this far from you. So you and I, this would be our space. In Ghana, very much the same. In Nigeria, I'll be sitting on your lap. And basically wanting to extract the confirmation and the commitment from you there and there.
Okay.
Burkina Faso, I would say very similar to Ghana. Côte d'Ivoire, I would say like Nigeria, very aggressive.
Okay. And in terms of comparing Ghana to the economic development in those neighbouring countries?
Ghana certainly has the head and shoulders above them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people come in from ECOWAS countries into Ghana, stabilise, do business, and then go out.
Oh, really?
And they maintain their hub, or they maintain their presence in Ghana.
Okay. So if you had a choice between Nigeria and Ghana, Ghana? Because a lot of, we've obviously read a lot about Nigeria with a very big population, 160 million people.
To answer your question, do business in Ghana. Base yourself in Ghana and extract outputs.
Okay.
Get your home base sorted out. In Ghana, population 21 million when I was last there. Population in Lagos 42 million. Just Lagos.
Yeah, it's huge.
Forget about the rest of Nigeria.
It's crazy. It's almost the whole of South Africa. We're what, 49 million?
You must just go and try and do business there. Hey, what a challenge.
So I think you touched on the question of how easy is it to export from Ghana to surrounding countries. You said that was very easy.
Yeah, it's easy.
So it's easy to go across the borders.
Once you're a registered importer, you naturally get given an opportunity to register as an exporter. If you want to become a free zone company, a registered company, and also dealing with ECOWAS, it's all there for you. So it's just the natural migration, the natural step across.
Yes. And then someone asked the ease of export to Nigeria by road and sea, and I think you mentioned road.
Don't do sea, piracy. The red zone is off Benin.
Okay.
So you've got the Bight of Benin, the Gulf of Guinea, that whole area right the way through to Gambia, which is right in the corner of the bulge of Africa. That whole Gulf is very, very prevalent and very risky with regards to piracy. So not only is the sea freight a lot longer from Ghana to neighbouring states, it's also a lot more costly, and you're at risk of losing your cargo. Whereas by land, you will get it there traditionally within a day or two of somebody saying to you, estimated time of arrival will be Monday, you might get it Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay.
But you can cost that in.
Yeah, you can work that in.
You can.
Just work around it. And the clearing of goods, how efficient is the process?
Going back to what we were talking about earlier on with regards to duties and processes, clearing of goods is for me because it was my background, shipping logistics. So it should be a case of outer anchorage, inner anchorage, quayside. Offloading of cargo, store stage, transport.
Yes.
There's a number of elements that come into place.
Yeah,
and
common elements.
And each element has a time and it has a cost.
Yes.
When I did my summary, my exercise of doing this, and I presented it to Ghana Harbour Ports Authority, they offered me a job. So I said, I come to the party with that level of skill and expertise. Now I'm expecting my cargoes to be delivered within these time frames. Yes, I understand that some of your systems are not quite up to speed. Yes, I understand your infrastructure, being your quayside gantries or whatever, and your spreader bars, whatever it is, aren't up to speed. I will make allowance for that.
Yes.
But I'm not going to make allowance for what
So I've buffered your lead time.
What you build me here and what you're saying is going to be my delivery times. Okay, thank you, Mr. Hill.
Okay. And thereafter they're more amicable and try
Very
and
much
get
so.
things
But
faster through.
if you ignore it, it'll continue to delay.
Okay.
And with the delays come costs.
Okay. So you'd rather try work with them?
Work with them, but show them that you're not going to be a pushover,
Yes.
but know what you're talking about.
Yes.
A lot of people in different industries are going by what the local Ghanaian will say rather than them going and seeing for themselves.
Yes. Okay. And someone asked, what is the best route to ship heavy goods into Ghana?
What do you mean?
The route. I presume they mean which port?
Oh, Tema.
Okay.
Tema. Unless, of course, you've got business West Coast. The West Coast is Takoradi. Takoradi, as I mentioned earlier, is a feeder on carriage port, and it handles mining and oil and gas. It's certainly catered and facilitated to handle heavy goods. But if you're talking about bulk goods,
Yes.
traditionally bulk goods will go into Tema.
Okay. And do you have any advice for making contact with distribution partners in Ghana? I know you said that it's usually better to be there face to face and develop those relationships.
In terms of the business entities that I think you're looking after, they will have done the necessary homework with regards to who are there, how long they've been there, and there will be initial discussions. But I must stress, if there's going to be any formal discussions, it must be done face to face. So either get them out to South Africa or you go and see them. What we did with our partner in Ghana was he came here we went there. And with its cross-change of travel, there was an understanding that there was commitment, there was interest, and that we were going to see it through. He was going to see it through, he was interested, and certainly we were interested to see it through. We now have
you
a
can
business.
actually see a commitment because you're willing to make the travel.
West Africans traditionally will always entertain, please come, please pay.
Yes.
But you have to be there to see that level of commitment and ensure that you're going to get your ounce of flesh out of these boys.
Yeah. But I think if you make an appointment time to meet them there, they'll
entertain it.
Yes.
They'll certainly entertain it.
Yeah.
And from my experience, a lot of them, I would say 80-20 in favour of honesty and integrity. Yes, you'll get the odd one which would fall in the 20% that is out there just to rip you off. But I think that happens throughout Africa.
Yeah. Someone asked which sectors are strong in manufacturing and growing, and I think you alluded to that with respect to textiles and chemicals.
Textiles and chemicals specific to plastic industry. Plastic's very, very big. Steel fabrication is also quite big. Where they're going to be getting a lot of their steel from now, because as I mentioned to you, Max Steel and BSI have both closed in the last couple of months. And they traditionally supported a lot of the government tenders, the government businesses.
Yeah, that was their bread and butter.
Yeah. So that raised certain alarm bells in a lot of the expat community in Ghana with regards to two big prominents from South Africa, contracted to government. What was the issue? Talk was that it wasn't the product, it was the payment. So it was a decision taken by Max Steel and BSI to pull out because of payments coming from government tenders. I think if you're going to look at doing business in Ghana, you must look to limit your government commitment and look to secure prominent commerce rather than the government tenders.
Yeah. And I'm sure do not limit yourself to customers that are dependent on government.
Correct.
At this stage.
Yeah.
At least in the short to medium term.
There's an incredible amount of developments, a lot of housing, a lot of...
Yeah, so on that note, someone asked, is the construction industry growing?
Booming.
Is it?
I dealt with
what about chemicals associated with cement products and those types of products that you grow?
Cement itself is a monopoly by the government in the port, and it's ridiculous how open they are. A lot of your Australian opportunities, because they do a lot of cement into Southeast Asia, and they decided to try and get into Ghana. I think there was a big dumping site between Tema and a place called Pram Pram, where all this Australian cement was just dumped.
So they wouldn't allow it?
Wouldn't allow it.
Sure. Are there any other products like that, which those are ring-fenced for governments?
For me, that was the glaring.
Okay.
And it was a very big one. Purely because it supported this development entity.
Yes.
And everybody's saying, wow, go to Ghana, all you see are cranes, you see skyscrapers, you see development, construction, there's so much going on. But 30% of that is paid for, is due to be completed. 70% is still yet to be paid for, still got to go through the next stages.
Yes.
And that's what we saw and experienced, because we would be dealing with houses as a Trellidor product. We would have an opportunity where a client would say, here's my shell, there's the aperture, it's a window and it's a door aperture, and you're faced with bare brick. So it's in construction phase.
Yes.
And this will be, let's say for example, the middle of January. Go in, do your spec measurements, give them a costing, fine. They're happy to do that and they'll pay you a percentage deposit. February comes, March comes, April comes, still nothing done. Then eventually in June, July, they say, fine, come and do that. However, now you want to manufacture the product. I remember I was saying to you about how the dollar, the CD, and in 1 month it was like 29%. Now you've got to go back to the client and say, look what it's now costing. That just illustrates to, firstly, how vulnerable they are in the market with regards to the rate of exchange and their currency. And secondly, how long it takes to get completion on certain construction sites. And we're not dealing with your middle management. The gap between the have-nots and the haves is just distanced.
Yeah.
We used to do a lot of business with the middle management, and they in turn don't have the time to carry debt. And on that, there is no debt, but there's very little debt, basically, with regards to overdrafts and credit cards. It's a cash-rich society.
Okay.
So they would pay for it up front. If you're dealing with your very wealthy people and you're dealing with the government tenders, they can string you out for 2 years.
That's completely different.
Yeah.
What is the banking like?
Banks are good. They're now getting into EFT,
Okay.
which is good, but that's between banks. So it's not between, like, my clients that owe me money or my service providers or product suppliers that I've never paid money. So creditors and debitors to you as a client, no, but it's got to go to a bank. If I want to do bank-to-bank transfers, I can do that. That's just come in now.
Okay. Well, at least it's moving.
It's moving in that direction.
And how productive is the agricultural sector? I know you said earlier that it is. There is a lot about agriculture, and you're talking about cocoa.
But it's specific to small markets.
Okay.
It's, as mentioned, it's cocoa and palm nut. It's peanuts. There's a big peanut industry there, or nuts.
So it's subsistence farmers, but as well they're exporting.
No, it's organised. It's commercially organised, and with that, it's a lot of from what I remember, it was a lot of Danish people that were farming. However, having said that, beef you don't get. You'll get the normal cow there, but it's lean and it's not very little dairy. We would import or go and buy milk that was imported by Checkers or by Woolworths. That would cost you as much as 80 Rand a litre just for milk. No, it's more expensive than their fuel.
Oh, that's horrendous. I know this isn't your expertise, but someone's asked what type of fertilizers are used. As you,
I know Kynoch from Richards Bay have got quite a big contract in Ghana.
Okay. And then if we move to Ghanaian government support, what incentives are there for trading companies in Ghana, if any?
The only support that I foresee you getting from the government is if you immediately register free zone in ECOWAS. That is the only support that I think you're going to get.
Okay.
They'll support you, but in terms of financial or subsidized assistance, I don't feel confident that you're going to get it up front.
Yeah.
If you can align yourself to a government department where they see benefit, certainly you're going to see benefit as well.
And are there any formal expat forums in Ghana?
Yeah, I was part of it every Thursday morning at Rhapsodies, which is the Accra Mall, and it was attended by probably 20 to 25 people on a regular basis. Just coffee, meet at 11 o'clock and leave by 12:30. Just hi, meet and greet, what's been happening, see what's happening on the weekend, what's happening in your industry, any news from South Africa, who's playing rugby, etc., etc. And it just kept you in touch.
Okay.
And a lot of the expats there are expats with families.
Okay.
So there was a lot of socializing, there was a lot of networking.
Yes.
And strange enough, the business I was involved in, or the product that I was involved in, was in an arena, security arena. There's no security issues in Ghana.
Yes.
So it's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
We're supplying product into a country that has no or very little security issues. But we're supplying that security element or product into paranoid Ghanaians and government officials that stop at nothing to spend $1 million for an 8-bedroom house just to secure it.
Really?
Yeah. And the other supporting businesses where there was synergy and commonality is the actual guarding, the response, the burglar alarms. But as I mentioned, it's crazy. It's not a safe Africa.
So it's a very safe culture.
It's a very safe culture. I mean, I lived in a huge apartment. There was not one burglar guard. Often used to leave the doors unlocked, windows open, but with mosquito doors in.
And immigration requirements?
Got to have a work permit and residence permit. So within your first 6 months of working in Ghana, you have to apply for your residence permit. To go and do business there, you have to get your work permit up front. So
easy to get a work permit?
it is. If you're prepared to, like I mentioned, after I was detained or arrested and detained, if you're prepared to pay, that's what that costs, but this route will cost you that much.
Okay. So there's a right way of doing things.
For people wanting to go there, they must go with a police clearance certificate from here, tax clearance certificate from here.
Okay. And now if we look at the, is there anything else that you can add specifically about the chemical markets? So about oil and gas, mining, automotive, shipping, anything about any of those specific markets?
The automotive, the Mansour Group, which is Egyptian, they've just come in there. A lot of these South African expats from, I think it's CMH in Joburg, there was a group of about 11 which came in, and they've headed up the operation of Mansour. We took on Chev, Isuzu and Suzuki in passenger, light commercial and heavy commercial.
That's about the distribution or importing of vehicles?
Importing of the vehicles, the agency and distribution into West Africa.
Okay.
So that's quite big.
Are there any, do you know any OEMs that are based there in terms of that have production facilities or assembly facilities?
There was one that was called Pisces, Pisces.
Okay.
They did into the automotive industry, but I think they were more specific to two products, Nissan and Toyota.
Okay.
I didn't see their product on any of the other brands.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of chemicals, anything else that you can add there? You said there's a lot of mining.
Yeah. I had some people in the expat forum that were involved in some of those chemicals, and again, it wasn't close, but it was by hearsay. So it was certainly into the mining industry, but based in Takoradi, where they also support the gas and oil industry.
Okay.
So it supplies from Takoradi inland into the mines, and then offshore to the gas and oil rigs.
Okay.
That was the only exposure I had to the chemical side, and the automotive was Mansour, and then obviously the OEM was to Toyota and Nissan.
Okay. And Rob, is there anything else that you'd like to add from your side?
Ghana's a place to be. If you're earning dollars, it's a place to be. It's safe, it's fun, it's great.
Is the earning levels and compared to South Africa?
Your average expat will earn probably $15,000 a month.
Okay. Sure, that's very good.
$15,000, and then there'll be subsidised schooling if your child is schooled, so 50%. It'll be 100% subsidised with regards to your accommodation and your essential services, so your electricity, your water, generator charges, your DSTV.
So if you're a business setting up, that's your expected charges as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the going market rate.
Yeah, and then there'd be transport. You don't buy a vehicle, it's too expensive.
Okay.
So you can either lease it through FML. That would be, for me, the best option.
Yeah.
A lot of people go there.
People drive themselves.
Yeah, I drove. I initially had a driver who I eventually put into my factory. So he drove for me for about 6 weeks, so that you can get to know where to go and how to drive and what to expect.
Yes.
Because your average Ghanaian is very, very laid back. Put a Ghanaian behind the wheel of a car, it's Jekyll and Hyde. It is totally different.
Oh, it's funny. Okay.
But Ghana's good. Malaria is definitely prevalent. I had malaria 3 times there.
Sure.
From a medical point of view, I was in medical aid in Ghana with Momentum, now part of Metropolitan Life. And I had a number of occasions where it had to be covered. And I was going through chemo and radiation. I had a burst appendix. And then I had an eye operation, a hook in my finger. I had some metal in my leg. And then my malaria, yeah. So everything was taken care of by Momentum.
Okay.
I had Discovery from here. All expats basically have a medical aid where you have an SOS or an evacuation component. Didn't need it.
Yeah.
The service providers, from a medical point of view, if people are concerned about that, they're definitely above board. In fact, the cancer care treatment that I had in West Africa was better than I could have got here.
Really?
Yeah. Yes, 4 biopsies go back to South Africa for the type of cancer that I had, but the treatment that I got in West Africa was second to none.
Wow, that's incredible.
Average temperature 28 degrees, so it suggests that it's going to be warm, going to be hot, going to be humid. Raining period is pretty much our winter period here, so probably April through to July, a lot of rains. And when it rains, it rains. You have monsoon type rains. So coupled with that is the winds, but you don't get cold. So don't even think about taking a jersey, just think about cotton and keeping cool.
And are there any recreational activities for the expats?
Do a lot of fishing. There's some, I played squash as well. There's some squash courts, there's tennis courts. There's a number of golf courses in and around Accra and Tema. And there's something which they call the Nida Cup, which is north versus south. So whichever side of the equator you're born, you're part of that. If you're a golfing enthusiast, you have a 4-day golfing tournament.
Okay.
But it's a good culture, good people. Yes, there are hiccups, yes, there are challenges, but you have that in any country.
Absolutely.
But if you go to Ghana with this attitude of you're going to embrace the culture and you're going to rise to the challenges and enjoy it, then certainly, I tell you what, you won't want to come back. Now, if any of these people are looking for somebody to front for them, I'm quite happy to do it.